Part 1. The sky over the Pacific Ocean near Hawaii turned strange just after dawn. It was not the usual pink and orange of sunrise. Instead, a soft silver glow appeared, growing brighter until it blocked out the sun itself. People on the beaches stopped walking. Fishermen lowered their nets. Tourists fumbled with phones, but no picture could capture what was happening. A ship hung in the air, silent, smooth, and impossibly large. It had no wings, no engines, no visible seams. It simply floated as if gravity had forgotten its name. Inside the alien vessel, the Vireth watched Earth through sensors that saw everything: heartbeats in cities, whispers in bedrooms, the slow crawl of traffic on island roads. They had come from a place so far away that light itself took centuries to reach them. Their civilization had mapped thousands of worlds, absorbed dozens of species into their galactic concord, and judged each one by a simple rule: how useful they were. Earth, they had decided long ago from distant scans, was harmless, quaint even, full of noise and color but no real power. Their first message came not through radio but through every screen on the planet at once. Phones, televisions, airport boards, even wristwatches blinked to life with the same image: a tall being with smooth gray skin, large black eyes, and a voice that sounded calm but carried the weight of someone used to being obeyed. "We are the Vireth," it said. "We come in peace. You may call us friends." Governments scrambled. Emergency lines lit up. Scientists argued over whether this was real or a hoax, but within hours, proof arrived. The Vireth ship lowered a small pod that landed gently on a military airfield outside Honolulu. No weapons were drawn. No alarms sounded. The pod opened and 3 Vireth stepped out, their long limbs moving with quiet grace. They wore no armor, carried no tools. They expected no danger. On the bridge of the USS Iowa, a guided missile destroyer anchored 20 miles offshore, Lieutenant Commander Paul Dawson watched the landing through high-powered optics. He was a man in his late 30s with short brown hair, a steady voice, and eyes that missed nothing. Beside him stood Ensign Lisa Tran, young but sharp, her fingers dancing over a console that linked her to every sensor on the ship, and many beyond it. "They're scanning everything," Lisa said quietly. "Cities, power grids, satellites, even our subs. They're not hiding it." Paul nodded. "They don't think they need to." The Vireth had already broadcast a second message. This one was different, less friendly. They spoke of Earth's limited understanding and delightful simplicity. They praised human art and music but dismissed human technology as charmingly inefficient. They asked for immediate access to Earth's mineral records, atmospheric data, and defense networks, all in the name of mutual cooperation. No nation agreed, not fully. The United Nations called for caution. China, Russia, the United States, and the European Alliance all issued statements urging unity. But behind closed doors, panic spread. The Vireth were polite, but their tone carried something colder beneath: the quiet certainty of superiority. What the Vireth did not know was that Earth had been preparing for this moment longer than they realized. After the Cold War, after the rise of cyber warfare, after decades of near misses and shadow conflicts, the world's major powers had quietly agreed on one thing: if something ever came from the stars, humanity would not be caught unready. Not again. Secret programs had run for years, under ice, under mountains, under oceans. New ships were built not for show but for survival. Weapons were designed not just to destroy but to outthink, and crews like Paul's were trained not only to fight, but to stay silent until the right second. The Iowa was not just a destroyer. To the public, it was an old ship, a relic from a bygone era. But its hull had been rebuilt with layered composites that bent radar and absorbed energy. Its weapons were hidden behind armored panels, and its crew had drilled for alien contact scenarios more times than they could count. Lisa tapped a key, and a new feed appeared on Paul's screen. It showed the Vireth pod on the tarmac. One of the aliens held up a small device that pulsed with blue light. "They're running deep scans on our infrastructure," she said. "They just labeled our nuclear plants as primitive heat sources. Our fighter jets? Noisy toys. They think we're harmless." Paul didn't smile. "Let them think that." High above, the Vireth flagship hovered like a god. It sent out pulses that mapped every road, every dam, every military base. But it never looked down deep enough. It never saw the silent submarines lurking in the Mariana Trench. It never noticed the orbital platforms disguised as space junk, and it certainly never imagined that the quiet ship 20 miles away, the one it had already dismissed as decorative, was watching it back, learning its rhythms, its blind spots, its arrogance. Back on the airfield, a human diplomat approached the Virith. He spoke carefully, offering water, shelter, dialogue. The lead alien tilted its head as if amused. "Your species is kind," it said. "That is rare. Most young worlds are full of fear. You seem calm." The diplomat didn't mention the fleets moving in the dark. He didn't say that every major navy had gone to silent running. He didn't tell them that Earth's best minds were already reverse engineering the faint energy traces left by their pod. Instead, he smiled and said, "We've had practice." That night, as the Virith rested in a secure compound, Paul stood on the Iowa's deck, staring at the silver shape in the sky. The ocean whispered against the hull. Stars blinked overhead. Somewhere far away, other human warships were slipping into position, ships the Virith had never seen, never imagined. Lisa joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee. "They still think this is a first contact story," she said. Paul took a sip. "It's not." The Virith had come expecting wonder. They expected humans to stare up in awe, to beg for knowledge, to offer loyalty in exchange for scraps of galactic wisdom. They did not expect silence. They did not expect discipline. And they certainly did not expect warships. But Earth had learned long ago that peace is not given. It is earned. And sometimes it must be defended, not with words, but with steel, with fire, with the quiet readiness of those who refuse to be prey. The Iowa's engines hummed softly, ready. Not to attack, not yet, but to show that humanity was not what the stars thought it was, and soon, very soon, the Virith would learn the difference. Part 2. The Virith grew impatient. Days passed, and Earth's government still refused full access to their networks, resources, and defense systems. The aliens had expected quick compliance, not meetings, debates, and delays. Their calm tone began to crack. Through global broadcasts, their lead emissary spoke again, this time with less warmth. "Your hesitation is understandable," it said, "but unnecessary. We offer guidance. Resistance only delays your place among civilized worlds." Then came the demonstration. Without warning, a swarm of small, disc-shaped drones detached from the Virith flagship and descended over Geneva. They hovered above the city like silent birds, then pulsed with a soft blue light. In an instant, every electronic device within 10 miles shut down. Phones went dark. Traffic lights died. Hospitals switched to backup generators. Even wristwatches stopped ticking. The drones did not destroy, they disabled. It was a message, clean and precise. "We can shut you down without firing a shot." Panic spread through the streets. People shouted, cars stalled, and emergency sirens wailed from battery-powered backups. World leaders condemned the act, but the Virith called it a gentle reminder. They claimed no harm was done. Yet the message was clear. Earth was fragile, and they held the switch. But deep beneath the surface, in hidden command centers and shielded war rooms, a different kind of response was already unfolding. The Earth Defense Coordination, a quiet alliance formed years earlier by the United States, China, Russia, India, and the European Union, activated its final protocol. No public announcement was made. No speeches were given. Only a single encrypted order went out to every naval base, every orbital station, every black site dockyard. Initiate silent rise. From the frozen waters of the Arctic, the USS Montana surfaced. It was not the old battleship of history books. This Montana was a new kind of warship, longer than 3 football fields, armored in heat-dissipating ceramic layers and powered by a compact fusion core. Its railgun turrets lay hidden beneath smooth hull plates. Its radar-absorbing skin made it nearly invisible to passive scans. And its crew had trained for this exact moment. Far to the south, near the Mariana Trench, the stealth frigate USS Carson slipped from a submerged dry dock carved into the ocean floor. Smaller but faster, the Carson carried advanced electronic warfare suites and drone launchers capable of overwhelming enemy sensors. Its captain, Maria Ruiz, gave a single order as her ship broke the surface. "Go dark. Stay sharp." In the Atlantic, the destroyer USS Iowa, still anchored near Hawaii, received the signal. Paul Dawson stood on the bridge, his face lit by the glow of tactical screens. Lisa Tran worked quickly, rerouting power, activating silent propulsion and syncing with the global fleet network. Every human warship was now linked through a secure quantum comms web, invisible to outside detection. The Vereth had scanned Earth's known navy. They had counted carriers, destroyers, submarines. But they had missed the new ones, the ones built in secret, tested in silence, and never listed in public records. They had assumed humanity's technology had plateaued. They were wrong. Captain Ruiz of the Montana opened a secure channel to all fleet commanders. Her voice was calm, firm, and clear. They think we're broken. Let's show them we're awake. Across the planet, human warships powered up their active systems, not all at once but in a staggered wave designed to confuse enemy tracking. First, the radar arrays lit up, sending out pulses that painted the Vireth ship in perfect detail. Then came the energy signatures, fusion cores humming to full output, capacitors charging, weapons systems cycling through readiness checks. To the Vereth sensors, it was as if the entire ocean had suddenly grown teeth. On the Iowa, Paul watched the alien flagship's response. Its smooth silver surface rippled. Internal lights flickered. For the first time, the Vereth ship moved, not with calm grace but with sudden urgency. It tried to raise its shields, but Lisa had already unleashed a custom electronic pulse, crafted from weeks of studying the drone signals over Geneva. The pulse didn't attack. It simply asked the Vireth systems a question they couldn't answer, and in their confusion their shields stuttered. "They're blind for 3 seconds," Lisa said. "Maybe 4. Long enough," Paul replied, but no shots were fired. No missiles launched. Instead, the human fleet did something far more powerful. They formed a ring. One by one, warships emerged from the sea, from hidden bays, from polar ice. The Montana took position north. The Carson circled from the south. Destroyers from Japan, France, and Brazil joined from the east and west. Even older ships retrofitted with new tech took their places. Within minutes, the Vereth flagship was surrounded, not by chaos but by perfect, silent formation. Every human vessel faced inward, weapons trained but not armed, engines idling like coiled springs. High above, satellites shifted orbit. Orbital defense platforms powered up their laser arrays not to fire but to be seen. The message was clear: you are not above us. You are among us. Back in Geneva, the Vereth drones suddenly reactivated, not by their own command but by a signal from Earth. They rose into the sky and returned to their mothership, their mission over. Power slowly returned to the city. Lights flickered back on. People cheered, but the real victory was happening far from their eyes. On the Vireth flagship, alarms blared in a language no human had heard before. Their emissary stared at the screens showing dozens of warships, ships their databases said should not exist. Their scanners showed energy outputs that defied known physics. Their logic cores struggled to reconcile what they saw with what they believed. Paul Dawson opened a channel. He didn't use Earth's languages. He used the Vireth's own tongue, translated through AI trained on their broadcasts. His voice was calm, steady, and carried no anger. "You came expecting to teach," he said. "Now you'll learn." The words echoed through the alien ship. For the first time, the Vereth felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. They had assumed Earth was a child playing with sticks and fire. They did not know the child had spent centuries learning to build furnaces, then forges, then engines that could reach the stars. They thought humanity's wars had made it weak. They did not understand that those same wars had taught it to endure, to adapt, to hide strength behind silence. Now, that strength stood before them, not shouting, not threatening, but present, real, unavoidable. The Vireth emissary requested a meeting, not with politicians or scientists, with the captains of the warships. The request was sent through trembling hands. On the bridge of the Iowa, Paul turned to Lisa. "They're scared," he said. Lisa nodded. "Good, maybe now they'll listen." The ocean was calm. The stars watched, and for the first time in human history, Earth did not beg for a seat at the table. It simply stood, and the galaxy had no choice but to make room. Part 3. The Vereth flagship hung motionless above the North Atlantic, surrounded by human warships that showed no sign of moving or speaking. The silence was heavier than any weapon. Inside the alien vessel, the emissary paced the command chamber, its long fingers tapping against its chest in a rhythm that signaled deep unease. Their scans had failed. Their assumptions had shattered. And now they were trapped not by force, but by the quiet certainty of those who refused to be ignored. After hours of tense waiting, a message came from Earth. Not from a government, not from a world leader, but from the fleet itself. The meeting would take place aboard the USS Carson, anchored in the cold gray waters near Iceland. Neutral ground. No crowds, no cameras, just two species face to face, the Vireth agreed. They sent down a single shuttle, smaller this time, with no drones, no scanners, no show of power. When it landed on the Carson's deck, the ramp lowered slowly. The emissary stepped out alone, its silver robes catching the wind. It looked smaller now, less certain. Its large black eyes scanned the ship, not with curiosity, but with caution. Captain Maria Ruiz stood at the base of the ramp, flanked by Paul Dawson and Lisa Tran. They wore standard naval uniforms, no medals, no armor. Just humans standing straight, saying nothing until the alien reached them. "You asked to speak with us," Maria said. Her voice was calm but firm. "We're listening." The emissary hesitated. Then it spoke, its voice softer than before. "We came in peace," Paul crossed his arms. "Peace doesn't shut down cities." The alien lowered its head slightly. "It was a demonstration, not an attack." "A demonstration of what?" Lisa asked. "That you can turn off our lights whenever you want. That you think we're too weak to fight back." The emissary did not answer right away. It looked past them, at the Carson's sleek hull, at the hidden weapon ports, at the quiet discipline of the crew moving in the background. "Your records showed a divided world," it finally said. "Nations at odds. Constant conflict. We believed you lacked unity, that you would welcome guidance." Maria stepped forward. "We've had enough guidance from those who think they're better than us." The alien was silent for a long moment. Then it asked, "How? How did you build these ships? Your public data shows nothing like this." Lisa smiled faintly. "You only saw what we let you see." For years, Earth's major powers had shared intelligence, resources, and technology in secret. Not because they trusted each other completely, but because they all feared the same thing: being alone in a universe that might not be kind. After near misses with asteroids, rogue AI, and unexplained signals from deep space, they had agreed, quietly, carefully, that if something ever came from the stars, humanity would answer as one. The Vireth had studied old satellite images, outdated defense budgets, and public ship launches. They never saw the dry docks under Greenland's ice. They never detected the fusion reactors tested in underground labs in Nevada and Gansu. They didn't know that human engineers had spent decades turning science fiction into steel and circuitry. "We turned our wars into lessons," Paul said. "Every mistake, every loss, every close call, we learned. We built not to conquer, but to survive." The emissary looked at him, truly looked, as if seeing a human for the first time. "You are not what we expected." "No," Maria said. "We're not." They led the alien inside the Carson, not to a conference room, but to the ship's tactical center. Screens showed live feeds from every human warship in the fleet. Energy levels, sensor ranges, weapon readiness. Nothing was hidden. The Vireth watched as data scrolled past, numbers that defied their understanding of human capability. "You could have fired," the emissary said quietly. "When we were blind, you had the chance." "We're not here to start a war," Lisa replied. "We're here to prevent one." The alien turned to Maria. "What do you want from us?" "3 things," she said. "First, no more scanning of our planet without permission. Second, no taking of resources, air, water, minerals, without full agreement from all Earth nations. Third, you tell us everything you know about other species you've contacted. No secrets." The emissary stiffened. "The Concord does not share strategic intelligence." "Then the Concord doesn't get a treaty," Paul said flatly. Silence filled the room. Outside, the wind howled over the icy sea. The Vireth looked at the humans, not as primitives, not as children, but as equals who had just proven their strength without firing a single shot. Then, something unexpected happened. The alien bowed its head just slightly. It was a gesture of respect, one rarely given outside their own kind. "Your terms are noted," but Maria wasn't done. "There's one more thing." The emissary looked up. "You tell your Concord this," she said. "Earth is not for sale. Not for guidance, not for protection, not for anything. We stand on our own. And if anyone, alien or human, tries to take that away, they'll find out why we built these ships." The alien did not argue. It simply nodded. Later, as the shuttle lifted off, Paul stood on the deck with Lisa. The sky was dark, stars beginning to show. "Do you think they'll agree?" she asked. "I think they have to," he said. "They came here thinking they were the teachers. Now they know they might be the students." Back on the Virith flagship, the emissary reported to its council through a secure link. It spoke not of conquest but of caution. It described human warships not as crude machines but as precise, intelligent, and unified. It warned that Earth was not a young world to be shaped, but a mature one that had already shaped itself through fire and time. The council was silent for a long while. Then one elder spoke. "Have we misjudged them?" The emissary looked out at the ring of human ships still holding position. "Not misjudged," it said. "Underestimated." Meanwhile, deep in the Atlantic, the USS Montana powered down its main weapons but kept its sensors active. In the Pacific, the Iowa resumed its patrol. The Carson stayed near Iceland, ready. No one celebrated. No one relaxed. They knew this was only the beginning. The Virith would return to their homeworld with a new story to tell. And somewhere out there, other species might be listening. Some would be curious. Some would be afraid. And some might even be inspired. But for now, on a cold sea under a quiet sky, 3 humans stood together, watching the stars, not with fear, but with the steady gaze of those who had just changed their place in the universe. Part 4. The Virith flagship did not leave right away. It stayed in orbit, silent and still, as if rethinking everything it had believed about Earth. Days passed. Human warships held their positions, engines idling, crews alert but calm. There were no more broadcasts, no more demands, no more drones. The world watched and waited, unsure if peace had truly begun or if the calm was just the breath before a storm. Then, a message came. Not from the Virith emissary, but from their home council. It was short, formal, and carried none of the earlier arrogance. They accepted Earth's terms, no unauthorized scans, no resource claims, full disclosure of prior contact records. In return, they asked only for limited scientific exchange and cultural dialogue. No weapons, no bases, no control. Captain Maria Ruiz read the message twice before sharing it with Paul and Lisa aboard the Carson. They met in the ship's small briefing room, the sea rocking gently outside. "They folded faster than I expected," Paul said. "Not folded," Maria replied. "Adjusted." "There's a difference." Lisa tapped on her tablet, pulling up data from Earth's global network. Their home system just went quiet. All outgoing signals stopped. They're probably in emergency session right now. The truth was the Virith were not used to being challenged. Their galactic concord had grown by offering protection in exchange for obedience. Worlds that resisted were either convinced or isolated. None had ever stood toe-to-toe with them and said no. Not with warships, not with silence, not with such unity. Earth had broken their script. Over the next week, the first real exchange began. The Virith sent down a data capsule, small, harmless, sealed with a code only human scientists could unlock. Inside were star maps, biological records, and logs of their past contacts. Nothing classified, but enough to prove they were serious. In return, Earth shared basic information about its climate, biology, and history. Carefully edited, of course. No military secrets. No weaknesses. The Virith emissary requested another meeting. This time it asked to speak with engineers, not soldiers. It wanted to understand how humans had hidden their progress for so long. Maria agreed. But only if the talks happened on Earth, in a neutral scientific facility in Reykjavik. No weapons. No ships nearby. Just minds. Paul and Lisa accompanied her, not as officers but as observers. They sat in the back of a clean white room as human scientists and Virith specialists exchanged questions. The alien asked about fusion containment, materials science, AI ethics. The humans asked about faster-than-light travel, energy sources, and how the conquered resolved conflicts between species. At one point, the emissary turned to Lisa. "Your electronic pulse in Geneva, it used a harmonic frequency based on our own signal. How did you decode it so fast?" Lisa didn't smile. "We've been listening to your kind longer than you think." She didn't say that for years. Earth had picked up faint signals from deep space, whispers of alien chatter, fragments of broadcasts, echoes of other first contacts. Most were dismissed as noise, but some were saved, studied, and filed away. When the Virith arrived, their language, their tech patterns, even their arrogance matched those old fragments. Humanity hadn't been blind. It had been waiting. The emissary seemed to understand. It nodded slowly. You prepared for us. We prepared for anyone, Paul said from the back. Friendly or not. The talks lasted 3 days. By the end, something had shifted. The Vireth no longer spoke of guidance or civilization levels. They spoke of partnership, of mutual learning, of respect. Back aboard the Carson, Maria reviewed the final agreement. It was simple, clear, and binding under both human and Vireth law. Earth would remain independent. The conquered would recognize it as a sovereign world, and both sides would share non-military knowledge openly. It's a start, she said, but Paul wasn't celebrating. They'll tell their allies about us. Some might see Earth as a threat. Others might see us as an opportunity. Let them, Lisa said. Now they'll think twice before showing up with drones and demands. The Vireth flagship finally powered up its engines. It rose slowly, silently, until it was just a silver speck against the stars. Then, with a flash of light too quick to track, it was gone. Not in a burst of speed, but in a smooth fold of space. Proof that they held technology Earth still couldn't match. Yet none of the humans felt small. They had faced something greater and held their ground. Not with anger, not with fear, but with quiet strength. In the weeks that followed, life on Earth returned to normal. But not quite. People walked taller. News channels spoke less of division and more of what humanity had done together. Children drew pictures of warships protecting the planet. Scientists worked harder, dreaming bigger. And in every navy, every space agency, every hidden lab, work continued, not to build more weapons, but to ensure Earth would never again be caught unready. Maria received a new assignment: to lead Earth's first interstellar liaison office based in low orbit. Paul would return to the Iowa, now part of a permanent defense fleet. Lisa was asked to join a new cyber intelligence unit focused on deep space signals. They met one last time on the deck of the Carson, before it docked in Reykjavik. The sun was setting, painting the sky in red and gold. Do you think they'll come back? Lisa asked. Not as masters, Paul said. Maybe as neighbors. Maria looked up at the stars. Or maybe others will come first. Ones who didn't get the message. Then we'll be ready, Lisa said, and they would be. Because Earth had learned its most important lesson. Wonder is fleeting, but respect is earned. And sometimes the best way to earn it is to stand tall, stay silent, and let your warship speak for you. The ocean rolled on. The stars watched. And humanity, for the first time in its history, knew it belonged among them. Not as a guest, but as a guardian. Part 5. Months passed. The Vireth were gone, but their story was not. It spread through the galactic conquered like a ripple in still water. At first it was whispered in council chambers, how a small blue world had refused to bow, how its warships had appeared from nowhere, how its people had stood together without panic or pride. Then the whispers became reports. Then debates. Then something new, doubt. Other species took notice. Some had lived under the conquered's rule for generations, told they were too young, too wild, or too weak to stand on their own. They had watched as the Vireth guided their governments, controlled their trade, and labeled their cultures as developing. Now, they heard of Earth, a world that had said no and lived to tell the tale. Deep in the outer arms of the galaxy, a reptilian species called the Kethra stopped paying tribute to the conquered. In the dust clouds near the Orion Spur, a hive-mind collective halted all data sharing. None declared war. None made threats. They simply waited, watching Earth like a student watches a teacher. Back on Earth, life moved forward. Cities rebuilt what the Vireth drones had briefly silenced. Children returned to schools. Farmers planted crops, but beneath the surface everything had changed. Nations that once argued over borders now shared satellite time. Old rivals exchanged engineering data. The world's navies trained together not as separate fleets but as one force. The Earth Defense Coordination became permanent, not as a secret but as a symbol. Paul Dawson still served on the USS Iowa, now part of a rotating patrol that circled the planet every 72 hours. His ship no longer hid. It sailed openly, its railguns visible, its sensors always active. Not to scare, but to remind. Earth was awake. Lisa Tran worked from a new orbital station called Watchtower, built in high orbit with parts from every major spacefaring nation. Her job was simple: listen. She monitored deep space signals, filtered cosmic noise, and watched for patterns. She had heard the first Vireth broadcast months ago. Now she heard something else. Faint pulses from distant stars, some curious, some cautious, all asking the same question. Is it true? Captain Maria Ruiz, now Earth's chief liaison officer, received regular updates from the Vireth. Their tone had shifted completely. They asked questions instead of giving orders. They shared star charts of safe routes and warned of unstable regions. Once they even sent a gift, a crystal that hummed with stored starlight meant as a token of mutual respect. Maria placed it in the main hall of the New Earth Embassy, a low building in Geneva with no walls facing inward, only outward, toward the sky. One evening, Paul stood on the Iowa's deck during a quiet watch. The Pacific stretched out before him, dark and endless. Lisa's voice came through his earpiece, calm and clear. We just picked up a new signal. Not Vireth. Different pattern. It's repeating a simple phrase over and over. What's it saying? Paul asked. Show us your ships. He smiled faintly. Tell them to look up. Minutes later, the Iowa, the Montana, and 3 Allied destroyers powered up their running lights. Not weapons, just lights. Bright white beams cut through the night, visible even from orbit. In space, Watchtower mirrored the signal with its own array. Across the planet, other fleets did the same. Within an hour, the entire globe was ringed with light. Humanity's answer, not in words, but in presence. The signal from deep space went silent for a long while. Then it returned, this time with 2 words. We see. That was enough. The Vireth returned 6 months after their first visit. Not with a flagship, but with a small science vessel. No emissary this time, just researchers eager to learn. They brought data on cosmic storms, alien plant life, and ancient ruins on dead worlds. In return, Earth shared its music, its math, its stories of survival. No one mentioned war, but everyone remembered it. Maria met them at the spaceport in low orbit. She wore no uniform, just a simple blue jacket with Earth symbol on the sleeve. The lead Vireth scientist bowed slightly as it stepped off the ramp. Your world has become famous, it said. Famous for what? Maria asked. For showing that strength does not require cruelty, that unity does not require surrender. She nodded. We learned that the hard way. Back on the surface, Paul and Lisa met for coffee in a small harbor town in Oregon. The sun was warm. The air smelled of salt and pine. They didn't talk about signals or ships. They talked about books, about hiking, about the strange peace that had settled over the world. Do you ever miss the old days? Lisa asked. Paul looked out at the ocean. The days when we thought we were alone. No, I don't miss that at all, because they weren't alone anymore, and they never would be again. In the years that followed, more ships came. Not all were friendly. Some tested Earth's borders, probing for weakness. They found none. Human warships met them with calm readiness, never firing unless fired upon, always giving a chance to turn back. Most did. Those that didn't learned quickly why the Vireth had changed their tune. Earth never sought to rule others. It never asked to join the conquered. It simply existed strong, quiet, and free. And in doing so, it gave hope to others who had forgotten what freedom looked like. High above, the stars burned as they always had. But now, when humans looked up, they did not wonder if they were being watched. They knew they were, and they knew without doubt that they were ready. The galaxy had expected astonishment. Instead, it found resolve, and in the end, that was far more powerful.